So what the fans say also like is quite important, but in my opinion, there's a lot of like hobgoblins just looking at you and trying to tear you down no matter what happens. It's like what they say doesn't really matter.
Hello and welcome to The Dive, presented by Team Liquid.
Whoa!
We're homeless this week. It's season 7, episode 5, by the way. Excited! We're homeless this week, and so Team Liquid graciously took us in.
Yep. Now we broke
this. We got a bigger table. It's looking good.
I can't play footsies as easily with you guys. I actually like this.
I think that's actually untrue. I can literally see your leg. It was like on Kobe's thigh.
Yeah.
You can completely. You're even closer. All right. Thanks to everyone who tuned into this Zven episode last week. Got some really great feedback from the community.
We loved doing it. I had a great time.
Yeah, Kobe was excellent.
That episode,
it was Kobe's best episode career-wise. Absolutely crushed it. But no, it was awesome. Everyone sharing that as well. Like a lot of the hardcore dive fans seem to be sharing that, so we got a lot of new people checking it out.
Yeah.
And we weren't initially planning on doing back-to-back pro episodes. We're going to do them when they make sense and when they work with the schedule for the pros and when we can get good guests and stuff. So this week we are here at TL. They're hosting us. We're going to have Yeon and Core join us a little bit later. It isn't going to necessarily be an every week thing, but this is just how the schedule worked out.
Yeah. Whenever we can get a good guest.
Yeah, and Core wanted to respond after getting called out by Zven. They're going to throw down for sure.
Yeah. Next week episode is going to actually be the boxing match between Core and Zven, so definitely don't want to miss that one.
I mean, it started as just them, but then with the drama on the weekend with Zven and Yeon as well, we're just one-upped it.
We got to get Berserker involved. It's a 2v1 right now. It's not fair.
They're going to come in. I'm going to offer handshakes to both. We'll see what happens. Whoa, who gets juked? Yeah. Honestly, though, it should be a good time.
Yeah, I will not be here for it. I'm going to step off. It's my turn.
Yeah. By the way, is random. You know who's not on? Everyone was memeing on me. I had something to do on Friday. We've had guests on before where some of us have not been on and been replaced.
Kobe was MIA for some reason.
This chair's got some good lean back.
Yeah.
Mine's locked. You can probably...
Yeah, you can lock it. You can lock it on the side.
Yeah, but I prefer this.
You prefer being able to rock?
Oh, wait, I just pulled this off.
Okay.
Not getting invited back.
And we're not getting invited back.
I thought that was the thing you pulled to unlock the bouncy. Whoops.
Okay. Oh. Sponsored by Secret Lab.
Hey.
All right. Also, we have a giveaway update. So we were breaking the law. We are now not breaking the law.
Allegedly.
Yeah. Allegedly, as far as we know. But the giveaway update, it's going to be starting this week. So anyone who's tweeting us using the hashtag TheDiveLolGiveaway will be entered automatically into that. And then I guess randomly selected or whatever. You can check out the details.
Yeah.
It's going to be tweeted out.
We definitely won't be choosing the winners.
Restrictions will apply and it will be legal. So no one's going to be going to jail.
Kind of giveaways,
or at least, actually, maybe our producer will still end up in jail, but we're not going to jail. We are
I'm not touching
safe.
this thing. I'm just here. Yeah, there's an RP giveaway. I don't know. I'm not doing it.
It's all fun and games until we actually go to jail. We're
Over
like,
$10 of RP.
The less I know, the better. You know, like, so when they bring me into court, I'm like, I don't know. I plead the fifth.
Yeah.
What do I know?
Yeah. So that's why you just don't show up to meetings and stuff, you know. It's all staying innocent here.
He left like an hour early today.
Yeah.
Hey, I always went to another meeting. It wasn't like I wasn't, and I have meetings after this. That's why I'm going.
Yeah, sure,
and not
Mark.
here for Core and Yeon because I actually have other work
just
to do.
Just piecing out early.
You guys get to
gonna go watch Physical 100.
Physical 100 is dope.
It is dope, yeah.
I can't wait. Actually, oh, new episodes are today.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That's why you're leaving early.
You're right.
Wait, is it actually the finale?
Yeah, I think it's a fun week.
It's a banger.
I'm super happy. I mean, you guys should check out some other Korean variety shows. They're super funny.
Oh, I watch Singles Inferno.
Running Man. Have you watched Running Man?
Oh, I've watched Running Man before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Haven't watched that.
Well, you know who is a running man is Diplex running away from Cloud9. He got benched kind of.
Oh,
they're going to start Emenes. I was trying to learn how to
Emenes.
correctly pronounce his name, and I went with Emenes last night. I don't know.
It's Emenes, isn't it? That's what I was told.
Emenes.
Yeah, it's like Eminem, except the last.
I just look at it like an
S
acronym. It's
instead.
MNS, right? 3 letters.
M&M's? You can
Yeah, okay, fancy boy. I was going with
Yours is way
M&Ms.
more complicated.
I intentionally
I just say 3 letters.
I want M&M's or I want Eminem. like Slim Shady.
Both of those are wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna try and make them work though.
Okay.
If we get a candy sponsorship, then it's got to be Emenes.
Do you know they killed the M&M's mascots?
I heard that. Wasn't there something weird about that? People thought they were like, I don't know, getting sexualized or something like.
It was a can of worms. I don't think we want to open it on this podcast.
It is weird. It was a weird.
I shouldn't have brought that up.
Yeah.
Close it back up, Mark.
And just gonna put the lid on those worms and tuck them away.
Back to the point that I was trying to bring up, though. MNS. And now I just see this bold, giant, all caps type that is furthering Mark's conversation.
That's a producer. That's not me.
Title of the dive.
I had one mission last night, and Champions Queue was to scout him, and so I got 3 games in a row of Emenes, and he carried all 3. He was extremely impressive to me. So that's all I need. 1 night of data. I'm
Convinced,
sold.
like that.
Seems great. He does have the story of being super toxic. I don't know the full length of it, but you guys want to elaborate, because there's a.
I've gotten some deets today.
It was even within teams in the ARLs and like within pro games.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that the team itself talked about in their off-season update video. You can kind of see that they like jokingly refer to a number of things like running it down in scrims, running down on stage, some potential like other problems that like I was surprised they joked about. You can go watch the video for those. But it's a known fact. He went through 8 teams in 4 years. So that's 2 teams a year. It was across 5 different regions. So it's like, this is a palpable thing. It's not like speculative, like, ooh, I've heard this. Yeah. It's like very much a public thing that C9 as an org acknowledges and says that, he has insane upside potential. The initial interview didn't even go well. It sounded like from that C9 video, it was more like the agent was like maybe making it awkward and like there was just some weird tension in the thing. And then eventually Blabber and Emenes had a one-on-one and that went really well. And Blabber's actually one that then went to C9 and convinced them to take him on and take this kind of risk, knowing the insane upside that this kid has. Like, no one debates that this is like a mechanically and just intelligent player about the game, just insane on every level. It's just like, can he get out of his own way?
Yeah. And I mean, that's what gave me some hope for the move, was the fact that it was like a player-driven move, right? I think if it's like leadership or owners are like, okay, here's a super toxic person, he's going to be on your team.
Throw him in, yeah.
Be like, go, good luck, right? Then I think that's a lot more concerning. But the fact that Blabber, actually interviewed with him, and this is in Cloud9's roster update video that they put up for the off season. So if you guys want to see that, you can actually hear Blabber talk about him. But I mean, he definitely has, checkered past or whatever you want to call it. From what I was told as well, he literally ran down a game on stage, like a live pro game as well, like actual inting, because he wasn't happy with the draft. So I haven't gone back and actually watched that game, but multiple people told me, no, this wasn't like a bad game. This was like an actual like inting on stage. So he definitely has a messed up background as far as the pro stuff. That doesn't mean that he can't learn, he can't grow. He's pretty young. And I mean, I'm immediately thinking of like C9 incarnation, right? Everyone was thinking, how can you do this? Jensen was literally banned from competitive for DDoSing and solo queue toxicity and so on. And he is obviously like one of the greatest mid laners we've ever had in LCS. He's I think was number 2 all time when we did our top 10 lists and stuff. So it's not as though you can't start from somewhere negative and build something positive off that and learn from it. So that is what I think C9 was feeling confident in their offseason roster update video. They talked a lot about they have a lot of belief in their systems and in their coaching staff and in their to be able to actually like help this person grow and become not only just a skilled player but like someone who's contributing to the team.
Yeah, I mean there are some success stories of reforming players like that. There are also some failures.
Yep.
Quite a few failures of attempting that. Dardoch is a big topic in North America always as well, and talking about bouncing around a lot of teams. I've always been a really big fan, and maybe this is
optimist.
I wouldn't say optimist. I actually think it's just it's my own hubris that I feel like I would be able to change these players or convince these players or control. Yeah, I'm always a fan of taking that chance on a really talented player that has been super toxic or hasn't had great teamwork, because to me, I'm looking at myself and thinking that is the easiest thing for an org to change. That is the easiest part, because you're not going to be able to make a talent like that is way more difficult, making a generational talent or something like that, than trying to
give someone good hands.
Exactly. Than trying to change how they respect people or how they interact with teammates or something like that. So I'm always hopeful on that side. I'm admitting that there are definitely a lot of cases that have failed and that I would probably fail as well. I haven't actually experimented in these. I did though, because I like going and seeing myself. I added him on Champions Queue and I sent him a message to test to see.
Did he flame you?
No, it was funny because it was just awkward. I had him, I messaged him and I was just like, doing well, because it was after the second game that he carried. I was like, oh, doing really well. I'm just doing research for this weekend, haha. And he messaged back, hello. And that's the only thing.
Not toxic.
Wow, that sounds like there's just rage behind it. I can't believe this guy.
Was there a period or no period after the hello?
I was gonna be like, maybe
was it capitalized?
He didn't try and Google Translate mine or his communication barrier going on. But it wasn't. It was just funny.
Yeah. The other angle to this, which we haven't quite touched on yet, is C9 as a team making this change, because they are 7-2, but I think this is like a very forward-thinking move in the sense that like Diplex, you've heard them in interviews like not even dance around the fact that his laning phase has been weak. He's like pretty bottom of the barrel in most stats.
Fudge even said, hey, he's going to be the first one to be replaced to Cutie Cinderella days before it actually happened.
He had to pick one. That's a no-win situation. And he picked the person that was the newest to the team.
You lie and you make a joke about it. But I know in the moment when someone asks you a question like that, it's really hard to not think of the real answer. Yeah. And then you're trying to dig out of this hole of where your brain went initially. Because if you know that this is a question on your mind and someone asks you that question, you immediately think of the right answer, or like what's going to happen. But then you're like, wait, maybe I'll joke about this guy, and then you just say the real thing. So
they might have already known.
Yeah, exactly. They might have already known.
Makes it way more mean.
But to the point just about Cloud9 making this choice, it's really risky, I think, for the reason that we were just talking about with the toxicity. But like, he had the lowest 4%, a lot of like the lowest CSDs for Diplex, and just a lot of concerns. They didn't play around him. Really low jungle proximity and stuff, and so like he was kind of just this like person who was there, and they just left him on an island, and he wasn't problematic, and I don't think he was the worst mid laner in the league, especially out of lane phase. I think other people have struggled more, but it did feel like something that this team is aware of, like going into potentially MSI or a finals against a FlyQuest or an EG, like we're going to be on the back foot in mid lane in all these scenarios, and we're willing to take a risk now to potentially level that up, even though we're 7-2 and well positioned.
And to be clear for people who haven't seen the announcement, they were very clear that this is a trial for Emenes, and they will easily swap back to Duplex if they need to. So,
but I mean, at the end of the day, it's like you're not doing the trial if you're not thinking that it could be an upgrade, right? And I mean, I like somewhat disagree with what you're saying. Like, I actually feel like he was kind of a problem, and that like a lot of the times, a lot of the times when he was in these bad situations, I felt like it would have got way worse. He did skirmish and team fight well. I will say that. Yeah. Largely, I think he did a good job with that. But I also think that he dug himself into a lot of holes that were avoidable and was bailed out by his team, by good ganks or good roams or whatever. Sometimes he was helping his team and got put into a bad situation, so it's not like a one shoe fits all type thing. But I did feel like he was really struggling in lane phase, probably more than they expected. I mean, he's lowest in the league in CSD, he was lowest in the league in 4%, he's lowest in the league
even
in
kill participation.
Like, he is struggling in lane. And when you talk about, if you're running into EG or FlyQuest or whatever later, JoJo and Vikla are the two like furthest ahead by a lot as far as CSD. It's like they're positive. JoJo is number 1, positive 8.4 at 10. Vikla is 7.1 ahead at 10, and Diplex is 8.2 CSD like negative behind at 10, right? So he's by far last. And it's one of those situations where if you are really shooting for a championship, you need to have someone who you can actually play through mid as well, right? Bot is where it is focused, but I think a lot of the time mid still unlocks you to actually move towards bot and kind of control the bottom side of the map very, very heavily. So I think Diplex has a bright future potentially here, right? If he can work on his laning phase, because does seem to be a talented team fighter. But I think it makes a lot of sense, right? Like, yeah, they're winning, but this is a clear weakness for the team, and they have big aspirations.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I tweeted out earlier today as well how I think this is a good choice from Cloud9 without a tremendous amount of risk given the options that they have available. But what do you feel about this conspiracy theory that I'm going to start right now?
What do you about this conspiracy theory that I'm making up?
I'm going to say it was floating around from fans, but I just thought of this right now. Diplex, the weekend that he changes his hair to not look like Sneaky, boom, instantly gets benched. Whereas he just fooling them and they were like, see. Was that a critical mistake?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Terrible.
He cut his hair different and now he lost all his power. GG.
I'm sad because we had a lot of like potential Sneaky Diplex bits planned.
Could have been a lot of memes.
Yeah, like you know how we have guests showing up. If we could ever get Sneaky in, we wanted to do a Sneaky
Sneaky
Diplex
interviewing Sneaky.
Yeah, Sneaky interviewing Sneaky, or like
So-
bits like that. And so like, oh no, we missed the window now. So that's the biggest loss I feel.
It's just a continuation of the no Sneaky,
Not
no worlds.
Not Diplex's career or anything, just the memes.
Me and my memes.
Now it's no Sneaky haircut, no Cloud9 spot.
Yeah. I mean, and who knows? He could be back next week, right? So we don't know that the window is closing.
If
but
he changes his hair back, I am going to. Oh my God, that would be the most amazing return.
Just send Kobe down this rabbit hole where he's like, I was right. It's actually hair related.
comes back with a wig. next week.
Is Porty listening? There's some content opportunities here.
Yeah, I don't know if he would find it as funny after losing his starting spot.
Yeah.
True. I don't know if he'll be jovial when coming back. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that is one of the risks with the change too. Is like once you rock the boat.
That was one of the one of the things from Champions Queue that I found surrounding Cloud9. How do you guys feel like they will perform this coming weekend with Emenes? Because I feel like it's actually going to change their play style a lot.
Well, for sure, because just talking about like the jungle proximity and like how pushed back he is, like I assume Emenes is going to come in there and try and make plays, which means like mid lane becomes a lot more volatile. He did have laning phase problems, but when I said they weren't an issue, I meant like it wasn't like crippling a lot of games for them.
Yeah.
Whereas this is going to demand Blabber's time, which means he can't be bot or top as much, and it's just like you have to learn to play around a much more aggressive mid lane player. So I could see there being some actual struggles, even though he is an individual upgrade, regardless of anything else going on. Just like, hey, it's a new environment now.
Yeah. Then the 3 games I watched of him, they were all counter pick games. He was trying to do the, Jace counter pick mid into Sylas and blast him there. And he was roaming around to both side lanes really, really frequently. He did a Kali counter pick game. He even pulled out a Syndra, which is all about kill pressure. So I feel like it's going to be a very exciting weekend for Cloud9 fans, whether it is successful or not.
I mean, it's always interesting, right? Because he is kind of the inverse style of player, at least in Academy. He is top of the charts as far
Solo
as
kill
CSD.
game.
Every single
he's
thing,
top of the solo kills by a mile, but he's like plus 9.5 CSD at 10 in Academy. He's leading the league by a lot. Second place is 3.7 for copy.
Yeah.
But it's always interesting because it's like we don't always see people come from Academy and duplicate the same style, even not even just the same level of performance, because obviously he's going to be laning against better people, but they don't even always go for the same style. So I'm really interested to see if they're really going to try to leverage what his style has been from Academy in the LCS, right? Are they going to say, all right, it's all about you, even though we know the meta is about bot lane? Are they going to be okay with him going for counter picks mid and playing just through mid and more ignoring bot? Or are they just going to say, all right, we just want you to slot in and play meta, play stable, play safe, and we're going to play through Berserker and see how it goes? Like, I think it makes the most sense to, if you're going to bring this guy up and give him a shot, to play his style and have him try to play aggressive and see if it works.
I'm guessing that they do give him, the leeway to do these counter picks that I was looking at last night, and he'll roam bottom with them. Because even in Champions Queue, like half of the time, he was going bottom too. So yeah, we'll see about that one. If we're talking about changes, how soon until Marin puts himself in for Summit? Because, okay, it was only one game, but he locked in Renekton with his own World Championship skin, went Prowler's Claw Renekton versus Impact, called his jungler, they camped top lane, he snowballed and won the entire game. I was like, he's ready for stage. But yeah, Champions Queue prize and go, Mark, because I found that...
Is that going to work with your glasses?
I found this helmet here in the Team Liquid facility. How do you feel about the physical pricing?
Okay, so for people who might have missed it, the pricing has changed. It's no longer
Fits perfectly.
monetary base. If you remember from last year, every split there was a winner and some people who received money. Now they've changed it so that the top 100 players get a t-shirt, top 50 players get a jacket, and first place gets a helmet.
Isn't there something for top 3 as well? There's something different for top 3, I thought, too.
Maybe there's some other stuff.
There's like a little coin.
You get a trophy or a medal or something.
Second place gets a trophy and third place gets a coin.
Yeah, there you go.
And then there was the other top ones. Anyway, so they've changed the physical prizes. This was based on feedback that LCS players gave, who said that they didn't have like a huge incentive based off the money because a lot of them make plenty of money already, you know. So they went for something a little bit more unique.
Yeah, this is really gonna get you going.
I mean, you can put it behind you when you stream or something. I
don't know.
How do you feel? Because I have thoughts.
I think it's that, like, I didn't even know that. I just figured it was like,
maybe I just leaked something.
we put in 400.
To be fair, they already took away the monetary
Okay.
pricing.
Yeah, I don't know the exact situation if it's either or, but I think maybe there's like a thing like, hey, what would incentivize you most?
Because the way that you said it, it's like, we're so rich, we don't even care. Like, it's just like
well,
such
I'm
a
saying
bad
like
luck.
based off the feedback, it was not like, hey, money is the biggest factor for them in terms of playing Champions.
Yeah.
So
It's
that's
competition and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I get that. I mean, I will say in general, I think a lot of people like have their thoughts about Champions Queue. I'm a little bit disappointed that people aren't more into it, because this was just like yes, there's all kinds of other reasons as far as people being busy with scrims and everything else going on, and then duo queue came back, so people were really into solo queue at the start of the year. But like ping and that, like, as a reason for the region not being good was literally parroted by pros for like 5 years straight, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm still disappointed, everything else aside, that Champions Queue has not been more popular. I feel like Riot really stepped up and did a lot to actually get this system for pros, and I still feel like it's underutilized. So for me, I'm still disappointed about that, but clearly it's not just an NA thing.
It's been getting spammed since it's been back online, though.
I know,
we had like 9 games going continuously at the same time last
we'll
night.
see if it continues, right? Like when they first tried to bring it up, obviously no one played, and then it is getting played now because solo queue is cooling off a little bit and stuff, right? So I get it.
I just feel like people really overreacted to that, because I 100% understand with the new scrim schedule and having a fresh rank reset why players wanted to play their ranked accounts.
I understand too. I mean, I get it. I get the reasons, but I can still be disappointed that I feel that this is underutilized compared to how much it was asked for and how much effort was put into bringing it in.
Even going to last year too, it wasn't like this was the first
this was
split
last
where
year too.
Yeah, people struggled a little bit with.
Yeah, I just think there were a lot of people that went way overboard that way.
Yeah.
So I'm
not saying lazy pros. I'm not starting this thing. I'm just saying I'm disappointed that this tool that I think is actually really good that they asked for 5 years is being underutilized. And last year, during a lot of the later ends of the splits, people couldn't even get queues, right? And so a lot of people who were spamming it, like Ole would talk about this a lot and stuff, where he was always queued up, right? But it's like a lot of it is just about who can actually get through the queues to get to the top of the ladder. So for me, that was disappointing. And this is, again, not about NA. EU brought it in, and theirs is instantly seeming to have all the same problems or worse, right? Like a lot of people that I was talking to in EU were like, yeah, it's like dead on arrival because people are unhappy about, certain players being let in.
Or what time it starts.
And for EU, the ping thing is less of a big deal. So like, people were wanting it in EU as well. They got it, so they're struggling with it. I think this is things that people would struggle with in every region. But it was just such a big topic of conversation in NA that I would have loved to see it like really blow up and just be super popular all split long. And I hope that it will be, right? I still hope that it has that growth, but for me, it's a little bit of like a source of frustration, I guess.
Yeah, I was going to bring up the EU thing as an example because it just shows it's not the NA only problem that people have been harping on and grinding on so much and just flaming the pros. I feel like there's pain points on both sides.
Yeah.
Ideal world, yes. I also would love if it was utilized more and people could sync up all their schedules and people had more alignment. I think that's something that is a problem though, even with just scrims. Like this is not just a Champions Queue thing. Alignment of schedules and the pros have even had all these discussions about how half of them are against the new scrim schedule, half of them want to do it this way. The streamlining of practice in general in North America, I think, goes even deeper than Champions Queue. Ideal world, yes. I would love for this tool to get used more. I would love for all the scrims to be perfectly aligned. Only 10 minutes after each game. Boom, get into the next one. Everybody's, on time with their reviews. And, but there's so much variation in individual schedules and all these factors that you have to account for with all these individual humans.
That's why the changes to the pricing is interesting to me, because it is feels like top of the rung focus, because one of the things I feel like Champions Queue needs to do to have an active pool for the pros is to have like almost an environment that would work without them, because their schedules are so variable and all this kind of stuff. Like it kind of almost needs to function without them, that then they join. And earlier on last year, the prize pool was a big incentive to the amateur level players and academy level players, who like that money can matter a lot, as well as they've changed the ranking system, to not be as grind focused, whereas the initial implementation was just win +10, loss -5, or whatever it was, which obviously incentivized volume of games.
MMR system that's better now and stuff.
But it's better in the sense that it's more accurate, but it's not actually necessarily better in terms of queue times or potentially just volume of games, because just winning or just playing is not as incentivized as much. And so it's a very complicated problem where like some best practices like MMR, which is true for a ladder system, might not actually apply for Champions Queue, because what I think Champions Queue should be doing is like when scrims finish, a pro player can go and log on, in that there's already this environment that other people are hungry to play for because they're incentivized by money or like by volume of games or these other things, rather than just like 100% MMR or something.
I think it's so tough because talking to a lot of pros, people complain about the queue times, and that is one of their big complaints. But also most of the pros that I talk to, you're saying, oh, it should be focused towards like the amateur and the collegiate players and whatever. Most of the pros that I talk to don't want them in it.
Well, no offense to pro players.
They complain about but that's the thing, is they won't queue up. This is literally the number one complaint. This is the reason from everyone that I talk to for EU that they're not playing, is they say, oh, I have to play with all these garbage players. It's not even worth doing it, because the whole point of Champions Queue is a more focused game where you're actually playing around rotations and you're actually doing macro and you're playing a more serious game. And they're like, but I have to play with all these people who don't know how to do it, so I don't want to play.
Well, so the problem is twofold. One is giving people who will match your quality of what is good a reason to play, so that way you're not having to flood it with people who are below that supposed level that you want. So if academy level / challenger level players are good enough, you need to give them reasons and times to play, versus then needing to go into collegiate or these other lower rungs to fill back order in order to get games going. Like it's a very complicated problem. I don't disagree.
It's hard.
No offense to pros, but I don't think they always think through like why those lower caliber players are there, because otherwise the queue times get so long or whatever it is. And so that's why I'm saying it kind of needs to be its own independent environment that they're happy to step into, because pro players on their own do not seem able to synchronize schedules enough to have constant games going so that your queue times don't get exacerbated.
Do you have like an idea about what would be a way to actually incentivize?
I kind of said that I actually think like volume of games being prioritized is actually really important, as opposed to like accurate MMR or for academy players, like because I don't know exactly how we arrived at a helmet. And I mean,
realistically, they probably were told that they're not going to be doing prizing for this year, and they have X budget and come up with something, right?
Well,
exactly.
So it's like,
I'm sure, but like, that's my question is, how did they arrive at a helmet? Because if it's for LCS players, I actually don't think you should be incentivizing the reward structure for pro players. You should incentivize it for the people that the pros are going to be playing against to get them in the lobbies. So then when the pros want to play, it's there.
So incentivize more like for the lower ranked prizes?
Ask amateur or academy level or challenger level players, like what would make you play the most, and get them in, because when pros want to play, they should be playing ideally for good practice.
It's interesting because I know that, like, from my understanding, the thing that does incentivize the, like, other regions and amateur players is money. But then when I saw some breakdown tweet, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find it, but someone was actually breaking down like who actually won the prizes from last year, and it's basically all pros, right? So it's like, even though money was going to be the stuff that incentivized people, almost every single split, the people that finished at the top were LCS pros, right? So it's like the amateur players didn't really get it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, who knows?
So it's hard.
You could try and find other structures, like games played. Every game you play, you earn $5. I don't know. If you have a certain amount of budget. Also, to that point, like, I think it was once the MMR change came through, the pro players started winning a lot more, and then they rose to the top of the ladder. But the first MMR-based one was actually more with amateur and academy players.
I didn't follow the ladder closely enough, so I'm going off secondhand information.
The first split, which had that kind of volume priority kind of for MMR and ranking, I think was more diverse in who was at the top of the table. I could be wrong though.
I don't remember who.
Anyways, it just shows that there's a lot to think about, and like what would be
complex.
the ideal
It's really complex.
That was kind of what I was getting at with the initial, broaching of the topic. I didn't want to like cut you down for being negative of people not utilizing it as much, because I definitely agree with you. Yeah. It's just that I want the discussions of Champions Queue to be nuanced, because there are so many different complaints and they're coming from different people. Oftentimes
Yeah.
when people see these arguments, they feel like it's the same people saying these arguments.
Yeah.
And they're coming from different directions. You know, you have the
But
people
Mark
that
wants just lots of games, and I want only games against the top LCS
I'll wait
teams.
15
only.
minutes, and I want to wait 2.
and there's a lot of pros that they want different things even
Yep.
out of the experience, where a lot of pros are like, I don't want to have to talk, you know, I don't want to have full comms. And that is a huge rift. And some players want this as the most extreme practice, and they want to work specifically on comms. And then you have to merge these two parties together. At the end of the day, what everybody really wants is Korean server solo queue with those players here. But we can't get that. Like, you're not going to be able to have this super full, super talented, super competitive solo queue experience on super low ping, you know, transported here, because physical limitations, the speed of light,
it's the
we
geography.
cannot connect to LCK server and have 0 ping.
And we don't have the population.
And LPL is there, and like
it's-
LJL is there, and
So at the end of the day, we're trying to solve an issue, and we know going into it there is no perfect solution. So that's why everybody has to make considerations and compromises in these scenarios. And I'm just trying to get to what can we get to be the best compromise so that we can actually level up our practice, you know, and kill it this year.
Absolutely. All right. Well, the first round robin wrapped up this last week with Super Week. There was, I think, some of it was fairly expected. Teams towards the top of the table, the top 3, not that surprising. But then like, ooh, Golden Guardians 4th, TSM 5th, and they're actually tied. You know, it's just the head-to-head that was separating them. And Dignitas 0 and 9, like those are the ones that start to really stand out. You know, 100 Thieves, I think, a lot lower than people were expecting. Liquid, a lot lower than people were expecting. So there was actually quite a few surprises, even though the top couple teams are pretty much who people would say, yeah, I thought that was going to be top 3.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should start with the biggest one. On the verge of setting history, Dignitas.
Okay, well, so I mean, I can talk about this. This is something that I've been thinking about a fair bit, and it's tough because it's like we don't want to dogpile onto players or teams that are having like a really rough split. But the reality is, at a certain point, it's like we have to be honest to the story and honest to what's happening. And this is a hyper ADC focused meta, and Spawn is having a historically bad split, right? It is very, very difficult for Dignitas to actually be winning games, you know, with how Spawn is performing, right? Like almost every team is playing around it. And when I was actually digging into some of these stats on Spawn, it is actually shocking, right? Like he is averaging far less than 1 kill per game. For this split, he's averaging 0.67 kills per game, which is no ADC ever has actually averaged less than 1 kill a game for a split. He's also the lowest all time of every ADC in the LCS for average kills per game over, this is even including the one's last split, which was much better. He is like basically at the bottom of the table as far as like CSD. He's at the bottom of the table as far as DPM. He's at the bottom of the table as far as basically every single thing. There's a couple stats that he's 9th in instead of 10th, but like most he's 10th in, and most he's 10th in by a lot. Right, his kill participation, even he's involved in almost nothing. Right, it's like 30 something percent. I can actually pull it up. 37.8% of his team's kills that he's involved in. Second lowest by comparison is about 62%. Right, so it's like it is a shocking season, and this is not necessarily just to roast him, but it's more to say like for whatever reason, like we know he was a good player in academy. For whatever reason, it is not working on Dignitas for him. Whether it is like, you know, he's in his head and it's a mental thing, whether it is the environment isn't working for him, whatever it is, this is clearly not working. Dignitas is having a shocking season. No team has ever started 0-10 in the LCS before. They are almost about to do it. If they lose one more game, there's a good chance they will. So they clearly need to make a change. And I wanted to talk about this a little bit just because I feel like everyone is kind of getting painted by the same brush, and I feel like it's somewhat unfair to also the other players who, not to say that they're playing perfect, and not to say that Spawn is the only problem. Dignitas has a lot of issues, but like it's not fair to say that this is now the quality of Jensen or Santorin, or this is all that they are capable of, and that they are now like, you know, these players that are just like diseased players that you should never touch again, right? Like Dignitas has got to make some changes, and it's very, very clear to I think literally every pro that I talk to and literally every analyst that I talk to that it's got to start with Spawn.
Yeah, I mean, there's not an easy way to sugarcoat it. He's definitely struggling a lot. The one that blew my mind was when it was like middle of the week, so I'm sure it changed a little bit, but it was like 4 kills through 7 games. You gave the kill per game number, but sometimes kill per game can get like lost in your head, but like 4 kills through 7 games.
Yeah, he has, I think, about 6 kills in 9 games
6
now.
kills through 9 now. So like that number is just so low in an 80 carry meta, you know, like people are getting more kills. But before, with the 4 kills, it was like people would get a pentakill and have more kills in spawn. You know, like people were getting quadra kills, even not just 80 carries. And it's like, there, you have more kills than this guy who's supposed to be playing the most important position on your team right now. And it's just really hard to win games. The kill participation thing's interesting because Santorin has gotten kills around the map, mid lane or top or whatever, and then you group up for 5 and they just can't get it done. And I think like even for his own sake, you know, it's like, this isn't a great environment for Spawn to be playing in as a young player. Like just getting trashed every game that you go on stage is not going to help his development. And so whether it's a Dig Academy team is actually smurfing, a challenger team now, like bring some of those guys up. Your season's lost, right? Like realistically, you're not making playoffs.
You're not going 9-0, and that's probably what you need to do to make playoffs.
Yeah, there's too many other decent teams hovering around 500 right now who can probably repeat and end up around 900 or 500 tier points. So it's not going to happen. Figure out what your plan is for summer. Start working on that, whether that's bringing in some of these other guys or whatever, or just giving them a mental break so that they don't like implode, you know?
Yeah, that's what I was going to lobby for is you know, a breath of fresh air, basically, even for Spawn, because as you said, he was really good in Academy.
He could be good somewhere else, maybe.
Exactly. So, you know, it makes me want to have, you know, go to Dignitas and have an in-depth interview with Dignitas coaching staff and teammates and actually get to the bottom, you know, and see how they feel about it as well, because they for sure just need to make some massive changes to have a break, you know, because this is just so incredibly demoralizing, historically bad if they lose the next game and set a record for starting 0-10. So
especially when this is the first split in a long time where it felt like Dignitas actually kind of invested into a roster, right? Like they got some bigger names, they built some bigger players, and I think largely most people were like, hey, I'm kind of excited about Dig. You know, I was thinking they're going to be middle of the pack-ish, and that was like a good prediction for Dignitas compared to where we're normally predicting them down like 8th, 9th, 10th, right? It's just sad that the split that they invest, they do actually even worse than when they aren't.
Yeah. I don't know how much more there is to say. I think we all agree that we had them at like 6th, 7th on our power rankings respectively, and it's just demoralizing. Let's go to something exciting then that we're all happy about. FlyQuest. They did drop a game this weekend.
I thought you were going to say TSM. How do you not lead that with TSM after you said
we went to the opposite side of the standings? We went from
and then you went to a negative
you went to the losers. Why don't you say the winners of the?
You just said we're so excited that FlyQuest lost.
I'm having fun.
Mark just hates FlyQuest. I guess there it is.
I've been so nice to them nonstop.
Yeah, I mean, Mark's on the FlyQuest rank 1 over here.
I've been gassing them up since the preseason.
I'm always also a fan of when the team at the top though gets that reality check and gets the quick like refocus. Hey, you know, you lost the game, because they really needed it. You know, you could tell they were already getting you know, very accustomed to winning, which can breed laziness even if you're aware of it and you're trying to guard against it, because you know you don't have any of these checks that elicit that sort of response.
I bumped into Speak. I was recording something with him after that game, and like just before, and we were talking vaguely about the game. You know, he was just like, "Yeah, it was one of those like." You start to feel yourself a little bit too much. You stop putting quite as much effort or thought into it. People start communicating a little bit less, and you just slip a little bit. So it is a middle of the season loss that will not matter in the grand scheme of things, and only realistically has upside, because I don't think it exposed some like inherent problem that now FlyQuest is like panicking about.
Yeah. Also, I mean, it's interesting to note that they didn't have Eyla this whole time, right? And now it's rumored that Eyla should be back for this week, I've heard. I know people had said that they saw him around in LA like last week or the week before or something. So like
where's Waldo?
Yeah, exactly, right? So apparently he's popping up. There was Eyla sightings, and it's expected that he's still going to be moving into the starting roster and whatnot, which is crazy to think like how excited people were about this player. You know, Core talked about him when he actually subbed in for TL for a while when Core was having visa issues, and Core at that time I think said he was like basically the second best support in the league just behind himself, right? So that was extremely high praise, and I think it's going to be really exciting to see what he can actually do with this team. But I do think that one of the struggles that teams have when you're winning a lot is always like big fish, small pond kind of thing, where if you are better than your competition, it can be very difficult to see what you are doing wrong until all of a sudden you fight someone that is able to show you, right? And you can be learning these bad habits. Like even if you're trying to have really intelligent focus practice and you're trying to be really self-critical and all this stuff, there's just things that you don't know are wrong until someone shows you. It's like, oh, it turns out if I do my jungle clear in this way, this guy's going to punish me. Or it turns out if I trade in this way, this guy's going to punish me when they're a little bit better. And that's, I think, something that they have to be really, really wary of. And the coaching staff in particular has to be really, really on being still like hypercritical and really focused on all the little things that they can improve, because otherwise when you start playing some of these tougher teams come international, right, which is the expectations now for FlyQuest, is that they would, you know, be able to qualify for MSI and fights on these big teams. That has to be your goal when you have this good of a split. You've got to stay really focused on improvement.
It's funny because even the media machine around your team starts to like put these thoughts in your head. I forget which interview it was. I saw it on the front page of the subreddit though, being like, Speaka, how do you prepare for like international competition? Or it was something like that, or I forget the exact context of it, but you can see that already people are proposing, you know, we're on the analyst desk. Are they going 18-0? Who thinks they can? You know, and like, it's hard to like insulate yourself from that chatter and not let it like seep into your mind like we're the shit. You know?
Did they get Immortals? Yeah. Right? Like remember, you know, Immortals had like the best regular season ever, and then out in the semifinals.
Yeah, I will definitely say from, you know, watching the individual players, like you tune into Prince's stream. Prince is such a grind lord, and he really feels every mistake that he makes. So much so at times where if he's playing bad, he's like, sorry, I got to turn off stream, you know, and refocus. And it's like, and then that's coming from right now pretty universally the best player in the league.
Yep.
So I do love to see that, and especially when you have the driving force where they're giving these interviews where Impact is talking about, I'm not going to let this, you know, team fall into the trap that so many other star teams in NA with really star imports have fallen into.
And he's been on a lot of those teams.
And, and he's been through it, and he's also been a world champion. So I feel like that is that might be the single best piece. Okay. Usually couch statements with like one of the best, but like Impact is the best possible piece to have on a team like that, you know, to be able to guide that sort of mentality. So I still have I think it was actually kind of a positive thing. To speak from the TSM side,
Let's take the positive angle.
This is coming from a team that feels like already knows themselves really well, way better than everyone else does, and they have no illusions about trying to change their style or play to anyone else's style or, you know, try anything crazy here. When you hear all the interviews with Solo or Chowie or Maple or any of them, they're like I think Solo was saying, you know, there are a lot of role players that know that role super well, and they know their path to victory. You're squinting already, like,
because I can't wait to ask Azael, because after the first week where they went 2-0, he was like, I don't believe it. And then they went 0-2 the next week, and he's like, I'm right.
When I wanted
how you feeling?
I wanted to raise them up.
He wanted to. He was an early believer. He bought that stock early. Azael, are you regretting not purchasing the stock?
I'm trying to think about like where do I realistically think this team will finish. I can't remember where I had them power ranked. I guess it doesn't really matter.
Them like ninth. But
so I think they're definitely better than that, but I'm still not like, oh, this team is going to shoot to the top of the standings. I personally am not bought in that much. I think this team will compete for a playoff spot now, which is above where my expectations were for sure. I think that they're going to compete, you know, and they're going to end up around 5th to 7th would be my kind of projection right now. And I think that's like really good for what this team was expecting. And also, to be quite honest, you know, like their wins have not been about Neo, and at the end of the day, it's a bot lane focused meta. So I think it's really impressive that they've been finding ways to win other than just playing purely through bot. And I think, you know, Maple has been a really big part of that. Mid jungle for me is like kind of the shining star of TSM. I think they've been playing really, really well. And so I think it's exciting to see a team not only succeed, but to kind of succeed a little bit in their own way. That is not just the same as every other team, right? They're not just like playing Zeri every game and then, you know, Neo's winning team fights. Like they're actually like winning through like hyper aggressive ganking.
Zeri kill Prince. It was so beautiful to watch. Maple's Talia does, like, especially as a jungler point of view, you know, when you're playing the setup for your mid laner and they don't, you know, come to roam with you, or they don't flash to get these seismic shoves, Maple every single time he is in there, max range, boom, boom, boom. It's like, that must feel so good. Every time you turn around, like your mid laner's there. I'm just like, these combos were really, really well executed from them. And that's why I like your, you know, the point about execution, and why they themselves brought up each individual knowing what role they need to play in order to get the victory, and then Solo bringing out other tanks that other people are not playing, with Cho'Gath and stuff like that. And he's always been one to want to play, you know, the glue man that we love, maybe I specifically love repeating. But he's you know, so good at it. So
the draft is where I wanted to go, to the point about like the ways to kill Prince, and then like Solo just having his own champion pool that keeps perplexing people. Like, we did a draft from the analyst desk one time, and Raz was like, they shouldn't ban Ornn. And me and Jack were like, what? That's Solo's best champ. You should ban Ornn. They banned Ornn. He plays Sion the next game. Or he plays Sion immediately and wins that game. And we're like, maybe it was not worth the Ornn ban. And then this game, they ban Ornn. They take the Sion away. Cho'Gath. You know, and he always has like that next step prepared. The team knows its identity. Solo will be playing a tank or something like that. And then they find a way to like abuse their enemy team when they make mistakes. They often have these winning drafts. They mind control people into Jace mid. It's incredible.
And I mean,
this weekend,
this is a point that you love bringing up behind the scenes. I don't know how much you've talked about it on screen, but you know, having that extra layer of champions just below what everyone picks in pro,
Azael's been preaching this for years.
being paired with staying with how this team wants to win the game, and saying, hey, yeah, we want a really good tank up there, and Solo has a deep tank pool to be able to pull from. And can dip right down to that and prove to people that you don't have to stay cookie cutter 1-2 in every single role and kind of follow these things if you're staying to how you win. And my favorite example that I was bringing up a bunch was like Adam in LEC as well, you know, with the Darius picks, and then him / the Moose Hater with the Garen picks as well, because I know Adam also played it in the European Champions queue. But those things to me also make me more invested as a viewer in the game.
Yeah.
Much less, you know, you can be, you know, on the team as a super fan wanting them to win every single game. If you're not on the team though, I enjoy those games way more than, you know, having some variety and having people actually play to how they feel League of Legends is fun. Adam was like, yeah, we're going to play to have fun. This is what I'm the best at. So we're going to find a way to win this way. It's so sick. You know,
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree, right? Like you guys said, I talk about it a lot behind the scenes. I don't actually remember how much I've talked about on
you've talked about on the dive before.
On the dive and stuff, but basically just that the belief that there is this S tier that is the meta picks, and then right below that, I feel like there's actually a really large pool of champions that are almost as good, not quite, and it's tapping into that. Exactly. I don't know if you got the call out. I cast that game where Alawi got banned, and I gave you a shout out. I was like,
I remember that.
That's the closest
it was
Kobe
such
has
a random
gotten.
Alawi ban. It was just like third ban on red side or something.
Yeah.
If tanks become blind pick all the time and there's multiple melees,
Alawi's gonna abuse it.
Those are the two conditions you need: a tank opponent.
All right, before we go down this rabbit hole too much, it's just about like staying to your strengths, right? And I think Impact has done this at times in his career well. But if you are a really good tank player and it's like, Ornn and Cassandra are off the table, guess it's time to play Aurelia. Like, no, there's actually so many other good champions. I mean, the ones that we saw were really cool. We got the Cho'Gath and stuff, but like Shen hasn't been touched. Shen is really good. Zach Top is actually really good. You know, even just looking at solo queue win rates, both those are super high win rate. Maokai Top is actually like not really played that much, but it's nichely can be strong in some matchups. So there's like a lot of champions within those different subsets that can fit, right? Adam is another great example. And I just like that TSM is playing towards those strengths, right? I will say, I don't think that Maple's going to keep getting Talia. He's got like a 34 KDA and he's won every game he's played it. I remember when Maple first came over and he was playing Champions Queue when he first came in. The champions that move around the map like that he can roam on, are his best champions. And I felt that from Champions Queue. I've felt that when I watch him on stage, whether it's Galio, whether it's Talia, just anything that can push him roam. When I watch him play on that, he is really intelligent about how he plays with his jungler and how he moves around the map. And to me, that is Maple's greatest strength. Like, it's not his mechanics, it's not his like 1v1 prowess or anything like that. It's about like, this guy has such a wealth of experience and knows how to win games, knows how to advance the state of the game forward. So limiting him and putting him on a champ like Azir, where it's like farm to late and then team fight really well, just I think cuts him down a lot on what he can do and how he can contribute to the game.
Yeah. The final thing I'll say about TSM, I think this is replicatable. 5-4 for them. They beat the 4 teams that would not make playoffs, presumably, and then they punched above their weight one time and took down FlyQuest to get 5 wins. There's no reason they can't do that again, actually, with their kind of like...
Even if they go 4-5.
Yeah, even if they go 4-5 and they don't get that one, or
that's
they drop
9-9.
one below. Yeah, that's 9-9 and potentially playoffs. Like,
that's probably 6th if you go 99.
And Solo even literally said, that's what we're focused on. We're trying to win the games that we're supposed to win and take care of business. And lo and behold, that's what they do.
Another team taking care of business, Golden Guardians. They started 0-4, playing all the best teams in the league. They didn't have Gory. Gory joined in the middle of week 2 when they started playing those hard teams. Then they rip off 5 straight wins against the bottom half of the table teams. And Stixxay has not died in those 5 games. 1 player of the week. He's popping off.
Just going to say, all the people that are, you know, really super anti-trash talk, there were multiple interviews from 2 Golden Guardians members saying Huhi is toxic. He flames Stixxay, and then Stixxay gets player of the week because Huhi's telling him to shape up and calling out his errors. I mean... You need people on your team.
You need the whip sometimes.
You need to be able to say, do this better. That's the problem. Even though both Stixxay and Licorice were like, yeah, Huhi's got a little spice to him nowadays. You know, they said it with a smile on their faces, and they're getting wins, and they're getting player of the week.
Also, great caster tier list that they did, putting me at the top. You know, excellent taste.
Kobe.
With the trump card, with the dog and the cat.
Yeah,
GG.
what can you do? Yeah.
Kobe didn't understand the chance. Doesn't own anything.
Yeah,
At least I was happy that Huhi moved me up. He was like, we gotta move Kobe up. And I was like, it's fine if
he wants a cat. We'll move him up.
It's just a CLG connection. Jacked up.
True. I got that bias, baby.
Yeah. I mean, but the fact that it is an 80 carry meta and Stixxay looking this good is really cool. Also, mid jungle's incredible. Licorice has stepped up. Like, his Jack Show Renekton was like, I'm here to frontline, baby.
Has he?
Jack Show Renekton, baby. Maybe.
Make that voice again.
Baby.
Baby.
I don't know. Where would you put Licorice amongst top laners?
Licorice is struggling. All right, I'll say it.
Yeah, I feel like Licorice is bottom of the league for top lane. I feel like that's like the weak point right now. I think he has been playing a lot of carries and not doing particularly well in them. And it feels like in a lot of the games, he's either not very involved or they're winning in spite of him. I'm gonna be honest. And I like Licorice a lot, but I think he's having a really rough season.
You like red licorice or black licorice?
Black licorice is truly horrible.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah. But I mean, so
I'm here for the
right there.
I'm here for the comedic interjections.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've been excited to watch Golden Guardians. I think they're actually just a really fun team to watch. Mm-hmm. I'm more hyped for them than I am for TSM because I just think that Gory and River have been so damn good, and I think Stixxay has really impressed me as far as like expectation versus reality for a player. Like, the delta between where I thought he was going to be and where he is actually really big. Like, at this point, are you putting him above how Doublelift is performing? Like, how high is Stixxay? I feel like he's got to be in the conversation for at least like top 4 ADs in the league.
He's an all-pro consideration for sure.
Yeah, like he's on that line, and that is really, really impressive for a guy that I think for so many years, because he's been around for a long time, this happens where it's like, you know, your career goes up and down, and people are like, okay, you're washed up. Like, you're not good anymore.
And his peak was in 2016.
Yep.
It was his rookie year was his peak, which is why it really felt like that.
It's been a long time. You know, winning the LCS with CLG, and then going to MSI and getting MSI finals. And since then, you know, the story has been building about, you know, the descent and then the getting older. So I always love these stories when you have an older player that has a resurgence. To me, that is as exciting as a brand new rookie that's, you know, top challenger, mechanically intensive, and you're just like, you know, getting super hyped of. This is also has that feels good
energy.
It's kind of similar to the Dokla story, right? Guys who like come into the league and then
hard work.
like they fall out and people are like, all right, washed up, get rid of him. Stixxay was literally not even a pro anymore. He was a coach briefly, right? And then actually, worked his way back up, did really well in academy, back in LCS, and now he's performing incredibly well. And it does go to show that the situation and the environment matter so much for success or failure, right? So again, to pull it back full circle with the Spawn story, it's like just because he's performing really poorly now does not mean he can't find another situation in which he can perform really, really well. Because there's a lot of players, I think, who have been written off and have kind of disproven that. And Stixxay has been doing so well. But to me, like, Gory and River are the big stars right now on this team. I think everyone is kind of on board of like, oh, River's really good. Yeah. Everyone was really excited when he was on Dignitas.
Jarvan patch, man. Jarvan is so insane right now.
I've been playing a lot of Jarvan. It actually feels.
Are you doing Gore Drinker or Black Cleaver Radiant Virtue?
I'm doing Gore Drinker because it's more fun.
Okay. Black Cleaver Radiant Virtue is pretty fun too because I win every game. Gore Drinker is.
But I like to have a button I can press.
Yeah,
after
that's
my combo.
true.
It makes me feel like I have mechanics.
Yeah,
because I EQ and then I press number one.
And it is nice. You get that big AOE, and those are the scenarios where you are supposed to be picking Jarvan when you have a good Cataclysm team you're playing into.
Yeah.
So if you're playing into a team that's going to have a lot of melees and you're going to have this big group ups, then it does make sense. But
we learned from him last year, he's going to play no matter what.
I mean,
good comp, bad comp, just give him J4.
Well, and we're seeing a lot more Sivir and stuff, and like Zeri and Lucian are going to get some nerfs. They're probably going to get pushed out. Everyone's sick of them. Well, Lucian and Nami already did. But like, so if we're getting lower mobility, like we've seen some Jinx mixed in, Varus and things like this.
Yeah.
Some of those lower mobility ones, Aphelios getting some picks. If Victor is getting more popular, like these are the types of champions that I think J4 can really prey on.
Yep.
Speaking of one of the teams Golden Guardians beat to get to their 5-4. 100 Thieves 0-3 weekend, dropped from 4-2 to 4-5, out of the playoff hunt potentially. 100 frauds. I just love the word fraud.
Fraud is a good word. Yeah.
We commit fraud. They're frauds. That play was
There's
fraudulent.
a lot of fraud going on.
Yeah.
So
it's on my mind for some reason.
Ours was not fraud. We were breaking the law, but it was not even close to fraud. Or are you referring to a different scenario?
No, just that one. I don't know.
Okay.
Just our general status is fraud.
Yeah.
Fraudulent analyst.
Yeah.
I just it's hard to place this team because like on the one hand I expected them to struggle. If you look at their wins too, it's kind of a similar story to actually TSM and Golden Guardians, where they're beating the teams that they're supposed to.
What's kind of crazy to me is that like Double Lift is the best performing player. It feels like the old man.
Yeah, the rest of the team does seem to be struggling. Like Closer has not been very impressive at all this split. Tenacity's up and down. But
so I've seen this theory that Closer's lull right now, I guess, is related to champion pool. Are you buying that or are you not buying that? They did just buff Crit Viego.
No Lee Sin, no Viego. Is that basically what you're saying?
That's what people are saying. Yeah. I think it's true that he is a more skirmish-oriented player, even like Olaf and these kinds of things. Like, it's just not that meta, but I don't think he's handicapped in that way. Where if 100 Thieves were playing well, it'd be like, oh my god, his Sejuani is holding them back. Because there's other issues too. So
yeah, but I mean,
kind of true.
Seeing some individual things like just completely beefing his Vi flash cues,
his Vi has been
stuff like that. It's just been like
that was a rough one, but that's the only one I can remember. That game was like 2 where it was like, oh god, look away. But besides that, I feel like he's been decent. I mean, it's definitely true that it does hurt him, right? For sure, it hurts him. Because when I'm trying to think about just like anecdotally, all the best closer games are all ones where it was like there was like a fight in the river early on, and he gets ahead, on Viego or Lee Sin, and then he runs over the game, right? And he's had so many of those throughout their playoff runs and stuff. But like for me, to be honest, I've felt like the biggest problem has been Tenacity. Tenacity has shown some great individual skill, but he very frequently seems to not be on the same page as the team. And
for specifically with the team fights and engages and team fight teleports. Yeah. So both things that are coordinating timing with the rest of your team. Yeah. Like that specific bullet point.
His TPs have been really bad, and very frequently he has been engaging too early in a lot of fights, whether it's a Herald or whether it's 5v5 a Dragon or skirmishes, where he goes in early, either dies or takes like 80% of his health before the other 4 actually get there, and then the team fight feels like it's lost. That they're kind of trying to bail him out. And I was really feeling like that in the game I was casting with Courage, where he came in, and that was a really rough one from Tenacity. He was playing the Ignite Gwen. He got behind early. But then there was a lot of situations. They had this fight over by Baron where like they try to jump on him when they're going up to try to check Baron, and he actually gets away. and he gets away past the blue buff, and the enemy Vi is literally charging like his Q still, and then he just walks back into range of it, gets Q'd, dies, and like Bjergsen and everyone is flying in to try to save him, and then they all die and they get wiped, right? And I've been feeling there's more and more of those situations that have been kind of sticking in my mind now. But to be honest, if there's something I would like a rookie to struggle with, obviously you'd like them just come in and be perfect at everything, but I would way rather have them struggle with kind of the like cerebral
timing,
part of the game.
coordination, stuff like that.
Yeah, because he's still, I think, mechanically playing largely pretty well. He's had some really cool moments where he's able to actually get individual leads, like the Fiora game, I think it was against Impact, right? Where he got a couple kills there. So he's had some good moments, but he feels pretty disjointed from the team.
Are you worried about it enough? Because like when this team was put together, I think a lot of us said, wouldn't be shocked at this slow start. Doublelift coming back, a bunch of new players playing together, 2 rookies. Like they were actually kind of projected to have a slower start. Yeah. I think Doublelift has looked better than we thought. And then the question I just have is, am I actually worried about this team? I have the same question about Team Liquid, but like,
what are your expectations? So
well,
that's what
I put them 4th. No, I put them 3rd. So obviously, I think that's maybe a little overshooting.
You should be worried then.
But I think them making playoffs is still pretty strongly on the table for me. Like I'm not quite panicked. Panicked. I'm wrong, but I'm not panicked, I guess.
As far as like alert level, I would be more worried if they weren't aware of this issue. They're clearly very aware of it, like their own players talking about it too. So that always makes me feel better when a good team recognizes what things they have to work on, and they have a very good coaching staff.
Yeah.
Adding more to it this year. Oh man, I can't remember his name, but the support player that they added as head coach is also a pretty big addition. European player.
Freeze?
No. I can look it up, but it's not.
Isn't Freeze the head coach? Am I
no, it's not Freeze. No.
It's not Kaz?
I'll look it up. Yeah, Kaz.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah. He's also a super good addition. So like I feel like they have beefed up in multiple areas, so they have contingency plans, and I think they will be able to improve on this.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not like super concerned. I think it's possible that they could make playoffs for sure. Like that's definitely on the table, and I could see them improving on some things and making a run. I would be worried about like our 3rd place projection or something like that. I don't see them really on that same level as our top couple teams, because there's a couple teams that are really strong right now, like FlyQuest, EG, C9, right? Do I see them on the same level as those teams? Nope, I don't. Is that possible that could change? It's definitely possible, but right now I am looking at them more as like competing for those lower end playoff spots. But I don't think that's a problem because you're coming in with two rookies here and a lot of room to develop. So if Tenacity and Busio start hitting their stride, if Closer starts playing better again, like if this team can really get going, I do think that their ceiling is still really high.
Don't disagree.
All right, who are we hitting next? What we got here?
It says after 100 Thieves, we can say goodbye to Mark. But before I go, because it's a Team Liquid episode, I just have to say I'm not scared yet.
You're not?
I still believe in them. 3 and 6, who gives a shit? That's what I'm saying.
You believe in them to what?
To make playoffs and do good.
So, honestly, what are the percentage chances that Marn actually plays? Because he is playing Champions League. Is it actually 0? Okay.
I think if they put in their head coach to play, they are Dignitas in the second half.
Oh no! I mean, for me, it's just like I see that
they only have 3 wins if they're 3 and freaking.
Not all losses are created equal. Like a lot of these losses are off of really insane early games where they have like a 3 to 5K gold advantage. They'll get Barons and then they'll just int it away, and like that's really frustrating and it makes you pull your hair out. But it's not like hella depressing where they weren't in winning positions and their bot lane gets 2v2 kills all the time.
Yeah, 2v2 has been good.
Harry in lane is okay. Like I know people are very down on Harry because his team fighting gets picked off left and right or whatever.
Yeah,
and he has some boneheaded plays, but like I can see some potential if he
can. Kind of the tenacity thing though, right?
Yeah, it's like if you just stop inting sometimes, like you can just be a somewhat consistent mid lane threat. Your bot lane gets leads on its own. Summit gets leads on his own. It's like they throw games away. And that's actually a really hard thing to clean up because of how scrims work, because people just FF these games. Like these kinds of games, like you get 5K up pre-20 minutes, you don't have to play that shit out, And then like it's really hard to work on if that's your biggest problem point. And that's like it's harder said than done. But it is like a pretty clear, like, you guys don't have problems getting leads. There's some teams who can't get leads, and those are the teams I'm really scared for, because it's like, how do you start winning games? for them, it's like stop losing games.
Yeah, I mean, I like to ask the spicy questions, but I think it's more of a thing of, since Team Liquid is trying to do this super heavy practice, you know, Korean structure style, I think it's literally just going to be used as like, you know, you get reprimanded if Marn's above you or something. You know, it's used as a motivational tool.
He steals your spot
because
if you're
they're
an LP.
like he doesn't actually, but like, you know, some sort of thing happens and he can use that as leverage. I feel like it because from talking to every single Team Liquid, you know, member of staff or players or anything, they are all so bought in on, we are going to grind this out until we win, you know.
Yep.
So
and we're gonna have Yeon and Core with us here shortly, so Mark's got to head out, but we will be right back with Yeon and CoreJJ. Hello, welcome back to The Dive. I am here now with Spawn, who's taking Kobe's spot because he is a slacker and had to leave.
Yeah, I thought that was a little bit weird that like I just get a DM halfway through my scrim day and Kobe's like, I'm out. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, so
I'm
thank you very much, Spawn's filling in. We're here with Core and Yeon. You guys obviously just coming in with scrim, so thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be able to join us. So we can kind of just jump right in. Last week, obviously, Zven was on the episode. You know, you said you had watched it. We had heard that you wanted to kind of talk a little bit about what he had talked about. For those who didn't watch, you know, Zven was kind of talking about how he felt certain players were more shielded from criticism, you know, Core being one of them, Caps being another that he mentioned, while other players seemed to more kind of receive a lot of that criticism when their teams were doing poorly, such as like Bjergsen and Perks were kind of some of the examples that he gave.
I'm not saying fans are always right, but fans also they also have an eye.
Yep.
They have an eyeball. So what I want to say is like fans believe how much you proved. So like now I can't say that I'm the best because I'm not proving like that I'm the best in our like HS like performance. Like what Zven said, like people are criticism on his melee support or something.
Yeah.
Because I think fan didn't see him playing those champion enough. So I think time will tell us like what's gonna happen. Like league is not done by tomorrow. So
yeah, absolutely. So for you, it's just more about like what you've proved over time, right? Like you're basically saying you don't think it necessarily matters like from week to week as much. It's more about, you know, for Zven to not get criticized or to get accepted as a good melee support player, he has to do it for a long period of time.
Yeah, like I think just like as a League of Legends players, this is just tired job. Like you need to prove yourself every single time.
Yeah.
Like even Faker, even like anyone who just won the last year, they need to prove again if they were actually good or not. Like this is our proving ground. So we just have to prove. And someday people will like us for one day because there was one next day. So we just like prove every day.
Is that something that you find then like really difficult? I mean, either you guys really like, because that esports is very much so like, what have you done for me lately, right? You know, you're talking about the fact that it's like even people like Faker or yourself, you know, world champions, or in Faker's case, you know, has won multiple world championships, that you constantly have to be proving, you know, how good you are.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we used to talk about a lot last year actually, is like you're never as good or as bad as they tell you are, right? Like sometimes they want to tell you you're the best player in the world and you're probably not. And then sometimes on other days they want to tell you completely shit, but then a lot of the time you're not either. Like you're always like somewhere in the middle between where the fans and other people tell you are, right?
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's the difficulty is that like if you're listening to the community when they're telling you that you're amazing, then you're also somewhat like, you know, you're giving weight to that. So you're also kind of listening to it when they're giving you the criticism, right? Which can be equally too harsh.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, from my perspective, I'd be interested to like understand like what it's like being like a rookie 80 carry coming in that was very hyped and then trying to battle against your own expectations, I guess, that like people are giving to you.
So what the fans say also like is quite important, but in my opinion, there's a lot of like hobgoblins just looking at you and trying to tear you down no matter what happens. It's like what they say doesn't really matter. The most important thing is like you see your own gameplay. So I try not to let like compliments or like negativities try to affect me.
Do you have then the people like, like Core that you trust that you're just going to and getting their outside opinion, right? Because you obviously have to be really self-critical and being able to be honest about how you are playing is really important, whether you're playing well, whether you're playing poorly. But do you also like have that kind of relationship with each other where you're constantly kind of seeing what you guys think about your own play?
If I think I could have done something better, like if I think I did something that felt like a little bit off, then I would ask Core, like, this feels weird. Do you think I could have done something different?
Do you think it's hard then? I'm curious, like from your point of view, because Core is obviously like one of the LCS greatest players of all time, a world champion. You're coming in as a rookie. Is it hard if you're like, Core messed this up this game? Is it hard for you to go to him and be like, you should have done this differently, or kind of give that feedback to him as well?
It's not that hard. Sometimes it is, but I don't think I have that big of a problem with that.
Yeah, I mean, when you are playing the game, like your career doesn't make your skill stronger or something. So
yeah.
I think you need to prove it like at the moment, and if you are not playing well, we are all the same players.
I think it also makes it pretty easy that it's like Core's personality type, because I've had this experience before where like Core will come into like the academy room, or Core will like we'll do in-houses, or we've worked together on scouting grounds for Riot and things like this before, and Core is like very happy to be challenged on his opinion, and like very happy to also explain his opinion. Like there are some veterans that I've worked with in the past that the way they play the game is the way they play the game because they play the game that way, right? There's like very little like justification behind it. It's like a coach told me 4 years ago this is what I have to do, so this is what I do, right? But I think we were having a conversation about my mid lane at APA like as like recent as 2 days ago, and Core's like, I see it this way, and I was like, I see it this way, and we explain it to each other, and the truth is always somewhere in the middle, right?
Yeah.
Like League of Legends is a very subjective game, and the goal is to like not do the correct play. The goal is to do the same play consistently. Like if we can do the same play consistently, then we'll be a better team for it most of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So how have you guys been feeling then, like overall about the split? Obviously not, I think, the results that you wanted in the first round robin, but you are playing with two younger players who are coming up, and there's been so much talk about like the work ethic that you guys have had, right? You're super grinding with scrims, you're putting in a huge amount of time. Like, do you feel that you're kind of on the path to improvement, or how are you feeling overall?
I'll be really happy that if we perform really well, or if our result is better, because so far everything except result I'm really happy with. So there's only one thing we need to change and make us happy.
How about the practice schedule then? Like, how have you guys been finding that? Because obviously, like, the entire team was built. I talked a lot to Dodo in the off season about how you guys wanted people that were unified in the way that you wanted to practice, the way that you wanted to prepare, that everyone really wanted to be working incredibly hard, and working towards these goals. So, like, do you think that's the scrim setup is actually like doing the right things?
And I guess before we jump into how you feel about the scrim setup, probably fair to explain what the scrim setup is, right? So like a lot of the time the scrim setup is we play a warm-up game. So that's TL Challenger versus Team Liquid Honda LCS. Then we play 2 blocks of 3 scrim sets. And then if necessary, we also play a night block, whether that's internal or whether that's with an LCS team. That's what our current schedule looks like. So my understanding, closer to the Korean kind of grind format, like what do you think, how's it been so far for you guys?
I really like the 6-game schedule. The detailed schedule I don't mind too much, because as long as we have a 6 game a day, I feel like we're getting way more games, like way more practice compared to the last year. We only had a 20 game a week before we going into the stage, so every team playing same thing, because the teams didn't have enough time to test out the new things. So I like it. And then one addition, like Champions Queue being really popular right now, like at least yesterday and today, and then it will help us and it will help everybody.
How much do you guys focus then on, like when you're scrimming that much more, how much are you focusing on like honing the skills that you already have versus trying to learn new skills or learn new champions, right? You talked about people were all kind of playing the same things because they didn't have necessarily time to prepare different stuff. So, what's kind of the split or the ideal then in your mind for either of you?
I think it just depends on what you want to apply. Just if I really want to play like my 10th game is Zeri, then just like hone it and just like keep remembering what I can do in a game. Or like if I'm playing solo queue, I'm like, oh, I think this champion might be really good for the next like week, or like this next like setup for the week. I think it just depends on what you want.
I think you're kind of like betraying how you see the game, right? Because obviously Yeon was on my team for a couple of years, and like we played things like Swain bottom lane. We were one of the first teams that adopted Zeri. You were the Twitter guy. So I think like the reality is, right, is you do appreciate being able to get ahead of the meta. Like that's a correct statement to make, right? So you really value in scrims, if you put the work in solo queue, to be given the license to like take an unconventional pick in the slot that you want to play it. That's a fair statement to make, right?
Yeah. Is that what you meant? I thought you meant more like what would you rather have, like the...
Yeah, but like, so what I'm saying, right, is like when Jinx was really popular, you know, we used to play Aphelios into Jinx a lot, and then Zeri was released, and you're like, oh, I actually think Zeri is better in this slot. And you would not want the 15th Aphelios game. You would want the first Zeri game, right?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, for sure. Yeon is actually, he's a very prepared player. Like one thing I would say about like Core and Yeon together as a duo is like they come pretty prepared with what they want to play as duos. Core has a lot of interesting ideas, and I think a lot of say into the pick ban, like as a support player. And I think that Yeon also has a very strong idea of what he wants to play in the slot.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you guys think that you have been doing like as a duo then? Like how would you evaluate your play as a duo so far in the LCS? Because it feels like your laning phases have been going largely pretty well.
Yeah, I think we are trying to push our limit a lot. So we enjoy challenging against the enemy team, like skill matchup. So sometimes it works, sometimes it didn't work. But I think when there's more time goes on, we will be better, even better.
Do you guys like the current meta then? Like, are you enjoying the current meta? It feels like there's a lot of people are talking a lot about, oh, it's Lucian Nami versus Zeri Lulu, like every game, this type of stuff. Are you hoping for it to be more varied, or are you kind of like enjoying the fact that it is lots of even like marksman supports and all this type of stuff and like heavy skill matchups 2v2?
Honestly, I just play whatever is meta and do more than that, so it doesn't matter too much. I think the more champions, if the meta is like just certain champions, like let's say Lucian Zeri, then I would like to find the next champion. So it doesn't matter what like the meta is. I would just try to find out my own like ideas on how to play it more so.
Yeah, that makes sense. So moving on, I'm curious to your guys' takes. So we've been doing a lot of tier lists and stuff on LCS. We did the first round robin. So Yeon, we can start with you. I want to get your top 3 ADs, and you can exclude yourself from this, top 3 and bottom 3 in the league. So who do you think are the best and the worst bot laners right now in the league?
This is a good test for Yeon to see if he knows 6 other AD carries in the league.
There was Berserker, Doublelift, FBI, and then the bottom one.
No Prince?
His name is P, so...
Wait, was that your top 3 in order?
No, of course not.
What's your top 3 in order then?
It's Berserker, Doublelift, FBI.
Really, no Prince, no memes.
Prince.
You don't.
This is like, I think he was like 5th or 6th.
Interesting. So is this from scrims? Because obviously on stage, like almost universally, everyone is going to say Prince is the best AD in the league by far.
He's trolling.
Okay.
This is my I posted on Twitter the ABCD.
Oh yeah. Okay.
This is the same thing.
Oh, okay.
But for some reason, it was actually pretty realistic. So like, I think the top 3, 4 was like 5 was like pretty realistic. So everyone like thought it was real for a second. They were like, wait a minute.
You just lifted in alphabetical order. Okay. What about supports?
Top 3. I think it's Vulcan, Ignar.
Oh, Ignar, interesting.
Probably Zven. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Kobe, I also wanted me specifically to ask you about Vulcan, and like, you know, because Vulcan is someone that I think a lot of people compare you with, and feel like you were the two that were fighting for best support in the LCS over these last couple of years. Like, what is it specifically that, you know, you think makes him good, or something that, you know, maybe you're trying to like learn from his play?
What makes him good?
Like if there's something that really makes him stand out from the other supports, right? Like maybe he's more aggressive, or he's, you know, better in the skill matchups, or you just think his positioning's better. Like something that really separates him from the rest of the pack, you know, because you listed him as your best, obviously not including yourself.
Well, for me personally, he's one of the better balanced support player in HS. I think when you think about the HS support players, like some players are lack of aggression, some players are only knows like going forward, like they don't know how to lane, they don't know how to team fight positioning. But he's like 90 in overall lore, so he's just like very balanced player. So whenever the meta shifted, he can adapt.
Cool.
Yeah.
So Eyla is rumored to be coming back this year. Obviously, you laned with him, you coached him.
Yep.
You know, you were obviously working with him as well. And I know last year you gave an interview that a lot of people reference where you were saying you thought he was basically, you know, second best support in the LCS, I think, behind you. So like, are you guys excited to actually see, you know, Eyla back, and kind of how are you feeling about him coming in the league?
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what he can do.
Yeah, I'm so curious what he's gonna do on the 8-1 team. It must be so much pressure on him, but I'm excited to see how he can play. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited to see how he can play as well. Yeon will attest to this. Like, Bill has like big opinions on the game. I think that when he went to the LCS last year, he kind of shelved a lot of his opinions because he felt like he was only there for like a limited amount of time, so he didn't want to rock the boat too much. But I think now coming into a team where he feels like he will be there for a long time, right? Like, and I think FlyQuest will probably hope Eyla will be there for a long time. I'm interested to see like how they incorporate his opinion on the game into it, because he's a very vocal player. Like, he pretty much shot called exclusively for us last year, so I'll be like, gone are the days of like 1v5 shot calling, but like Eyla to me is like as close to that as like you can nearly get in a support player. So I'll be interested to see how that now integrates into a team with so many veterans.
Yeah, that's really interesting too, because also, like you said, they're 8-1, right?
Yeah.
So it's like coming into a team halfway through the split, you know, is he going to have the confidence to actually like try to take over in that same way, or is there going to be similar more to his role with TL last year?
Yeah, the only thing I'm worried about is that he won't actually be able to do that, because all the like ideas and the way they want to play is already incorporated. So maybe like the fact that he started halfway through is gonna change how he's gonna play at the start, and it's more like playing catch up.
Yeah, definitely makes it a lot more difficult.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, just like to go back one step. So you won't say who the best and the worst is, right? But who is the most fun to play against? What is the, like, when you and Core play the game, who do you play against in the LCS that you enjoy playing against the most? He's trying to come up with a clever answer.
I haven't found anyone exciting to play against, but I think on stage, Doublelift would be someone that I think would be enjoyable to play against.
Okay.
Cool. I think he plays the most different from stage. No, he's the second most changed person.
Okay.
There's
From
another
stage to
first one.
scrims?
Yeah.
Who plays the most different?
I don't think I should say.
All right. Well, thank you very much, guys. Appreciate you taking out the time. I know you guys are grinding away with the scrims. Thank you as well, Spawn. I literally DM'd you last second because Kobe had to leave because the scrims were going long. So Spawn just came over, rescued us. And yeah, thank you very much, TL, for hosting us. And we will be back again this Thursday with more LCS.